welcome Danny to the show.
Thank you. It's still in that exciting phase, and it's still in the learning phase. This is like an old, beautiful theater. You can seat 300. 30-foot seat. That mental block was so big at first.
Okay.
That it just moved further away.
Now you're what we talked about like before we started. Like you're booked out every weekend.
Yeah, but selfishly, it's like, yeah, I do need.
This is the Unleash Your Purpose podcast.
All right, hey, welcome back to Unleash Your Purpose podcast with your host, Ryan Centers. I am super excited to have one of my great friends from about a decade ago.
Almost 2 at this point.
2 decades ago. We are old. Our wives were roommates, best friends in high school and college, and then they brought us together. And our wives, so welcome Danny to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're super excited. You guys are in town actually from St. Louis.
Right, visiting Christina's family for Christmas.
Nice. And you guys actually, what I asked you to come on the show for is because you guys have like a really thriving wedding and events venue in St. Louis.
Right, yes.
And as an entrepreneur, I'm really like resonated with your guys' story, and you guys launched in the middle of COVID. So we'll kind of go into all that.
Cool.
But think back to how we first met. Our wives were roommates in college, and they lived in a double wide trailer.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
It had a slight smell of skunk, if you remember that.
Yeah, permeating throughout.
Yes. Because the double wide is a little bit elevated off the ground, there were these skunks that were underneath the trailer, and they sprayed the entire house.
Yeah.
So both of our girlfriends at the time in college had a slight skunk smell.
Right. I came shortly after, luckily, so it was kind of lingering, but
yes,
wasn't fresh.
It was not fresh. Yes, it was a very stale, dry smell of
I know,
skunk.
but there was a lot of skunks up there, so it wasn't that weird.
Yeah,
strangely enough.
Yeah. And we had this thing where we'd always go out on go to the bars in Flagstaff.
Right.
On Friday nights, our wives would be dancing all night long.
That's
and
right.
We would dance, but then
they
wanted to continue on. The
Correct.
Whole night
We
long.
couldn't keep up, so.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I need to work out a little more, I guess. My favorite was, do you remember the Halloween that was the most awkward?
Yeah.
What was it?
So, Halloween in college, typically girls, it's more about being provocative than a good costume.
Mm-hmm.
Not to Christina and Sarah.
Nope.
So they went as Mario and Luigi. Full on overalls, mustaches.
Yes.
Showed up to the bar, and then
with us next to them.
Yeah, and then of course they had the costume contest, and a bunch of scantily clad girls get up for that, and they were like, "All right, we're leaving. I can't do this."
They thought it was hilarious, and you and I were equally embarrassed. But then they were humiliated.
They were more embarrassed because they like Christina. I don't know if Sarah left too. I think they both left. They're like, "We're calling it a night." And I was like, "We don't care. We're here to just party."
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't work out.
So I can say that my wife had a mustache when we first dated.
Yeah.
And I've never been more turned on. Oh, I need to find those photos. It's like, I don't know if, I don't think she'll ever be able to live that down.
No.
So you guys got married. You guys actually moved away out of Phoenix.
Yeah, after college, moved to St. Louis, where my family's from.
Okay.
Christina came soon after, and we've been out there ever since.
Yeah. So as I know you've had quite a long journey, but recently you guys you guys been married how long? 10 years?
11, just had our 11-year anniversary.
Okay. Yeah. I was at the wedding. I remember it. So when you guys, as a couple, you guys wanted to start a business together, talk through it, talk about your business.
Sure. Yeah. So we're still pretty fresh in the business game.
Okay.
So it's still in that exciting phase, and it's still in the learning phase for sure. So I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah.
So initially we didn't have the urge to have our own business, right?
Okay.
Like, we've been together for 18 years now.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever it is. But it came up when we had moved to Chicago from St. Louis for Christina's job.
Mm-hmm.
So we were both living and working there. It's an awesome city. Loved living there. Didn't love our jobs.
Sure.
She really didn't enjoy her job at the time. So it really got her thinking, like, what do I want to do? So we knocked around all sorts of ideas, from like a bed and breakfast, which I was like, I don't think I want people sleeping in my house, and that's very hands-on and never ends kind of thing. But I've always been in food and beverage, went to culinary school. So I have a good background in that, and got in on the number side more than the kitchen side.
Okay.
I cooked for a couple of years, but I was like, I don't have the dedication or the passion to be a great chef. I had a couple good mentors, and I saw what they went through, and I was like, that's not going to be my life. Like, I can't do that.
Being a chef, that's every night
it's
on
like,
the weekends.
Yeah, it's like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I mean, that gave me some incredible training for my work life, though, just with organization and dedication, that sort of thing. But I knew like cooking wasn't for me. So I got on the number side, did a lot of purchasing and all that. So I kind of saw like restaurants, it's a grind. Your profit margins are razor slim at best sometimes. And it's just 60 to 80 hour weeks.
Yeah.
But I'd also worked at some hotels and country clubs where I saw how much a banquet could make, a wedding, corporate parties, all that, like just huge amounts of cash could come in on that. And a lot of it would be profit. So we kind of talked about maybe having a wedding venue one day. And Christina had always liked kind of the party planning, and not like a lot of people say they want to be a party planner, right? But she liked hosting, or like she liked throwing a shower for her sister. We liked planning our own wedding. So she's like, I think I could get into that too. So we really kind of talked it up and decided to move to St. Louis, where I had a good network of, you know, some like chefs and restaurant people to, I don't know, get in the pipeline and get her the experience. So we moved to St. Louis, and she landed a job as actually the director of an event venue. Like she got that solely based on her personality, because that's so important for events and like sales and all that. So she got it. She got to help build a venue with a restaurant, a really successful restaurateur. So events were new to him. So she got into that, directing this event, and it was wildly successful. So we still had this like dream of running our own venue together, but it was like getting further and further away. It's like, how do you build a building? Like, we can't build a building. We can barely afford our house, you know, kind of thing. It's like, how do you do it? And I think that mental block was so big at first that it just moved further away. I was doing well with my job. I had kind of a government job, but it was food and beverage.
Yeah, don't you notice that? Like you have this feeling as you're like a W-2, an employee, right? And you have this dream and this vision to start something on your own. But the kind of that fear is that mental block, and the fear of is it the unknown of like you had the golden handcuffs of a government job, the paycheck. What does this look like? Yeah, it's pretty scary.
It was scary. So like
you got over it though. How'd you
get
punch
over
it in the face?
So I think we found an opportunity during the pandemic.
Okay.
So Christina's venue in 2020 had to shut down along with the rest of the world. And she had to basically go work at the restaurant that this guy owned. And she was miserable. And it was all to-go orders, right? But, you know, she got to keep her job. But, like, she had to deal with canceling weddings on people. It was a night. Like, she was unhappy.
Sure.
And at that time, we found out. So we go to a Catholic church out in St. Louis that on the property in this, like, kind of old theater was a wedding venue. So in 2020, the owners had to just shut their doors and walk away. They were already kind of not doing well, falling behind, weren't kind of keeping up with trends anyway, but that was just the nail in the coffin for them. So we get this email from Father Bruce, just emailing everybody in the parish, and he's a 75-year-old guy, and he's great. He emails jokes and all this stuff, so I don't read his emails. I didn't half the time. I clicked on this one, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is our chance. I called Christina, and she's like, are you kidding me? Do you know what I'm going through right now? I'm like, let's just go talk to him.
Someone's loss is our gain, baby.
Unfortunately.
I know.
You know, it was
sad but true.
Yeah, a lot of couples lost their deposits at this place. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
So we go in, like, bad news story, pandemic, all this stuff. And we talked to Father Bruce. We're like, we want to do this. We're in this business. And we walked into this venue, and it's gorgeous. So St. Louis is full of incredible architecture, big brick buildings. So this is like an old, beautiful theater, can seat 300, 30-foot ceilings, original wood floors, a stage. So all this, we just saw the potential, even though it looked like straight out of 1985. It was like red velvet explosion in there. It was terrible.
Okay.
But it was all cosmetic stuff.
Easy fixes.
Right. No,
you guys get in there, update it.
Right. So we saw the potential. So he kind of let us talk to their finance guy at the church, who was basically CFO of a very large grocery chain out there. So he knew his stuff. So he kind of grilled us and was like, listen, like, this place did well for a while, but I mean, their costs just continue to rise. Yeah. And they couldn't keep up. Like, what's going to make you different? And we were like, we're going to triple the price.
So you knew their pricing
Yeah,
of the old guys?
They kind of peeled the curtain back for us because they wanted us to succeed because the church gets the rent that we were going to lease.
So you're a numbers guy. So you kind of had this experience with food and beverage.
Yeah, I got to look at a lot of financial statements for my previous job.
So how do you make those numbers work? Like what goes in there that you're kind of like as you're building out this kind of pro forma to make it pencil?
Yeah, and that's what we did. We did a pro forma. We didn't do the full business plan because we kind of already had our ideas. So luckily with Christina, I was like, how many weddings could you book here? Knowing your crowd. Because she had her finger on the pulse of what people wanted.
Sure.
She was at a successful venue. She's like, we would sell out fall and I could do 40 weddings here. 40 Saturdays.
Okay.
We could sell that here. And I'm like, okay, what do we think we could charge by offering, nice experience and all that? So we kind of worked into that number. We knew where we would fit pricing wise in the St. Louis market. We weren't going to be premium, but we were going to be nice.
Yeah.
So kind of start with those numbers. Just threw it in there. Doesn't make sense. And, deduct all your expenses and all this. I was going to be the opening chef kind of thing, but that was never the plan for long.
So you had a commercial kitchen.
Right.
So you're getting revenue obviously from the food,
We
or
sell
it kind of it's all encompassing price.
So in St. Louis, it's easier to get a liquor license than it is in this market, just for your awareness. So we knew we would do the bar, we would do the food, we would do all that.
So liquor, so here in Phoenix, I have a restaurant in town. So for us to we want to get a liquor license, but those you got to go to a broker, pay $60,000 to get it.
They're like a commodity out here.
Yeah.
There's only so many.
Right.
In St. Louis, it's a little more like you get enough signatures, you get the okay.
So, and for us, we got a restaurant license where we can do beer, wine, liquor, but you have to have a certain percentage of food and coffee that kind of fits in that criteria to make it a restaurant, so to speak. So for you guys, liquor license, you can serve beer, wine, everything?
Yeah, we have full bar and all that.
Mixed drinks. Go.
Can't do any of that.
You cannot do...
I'm sorry, can't do any retail packaged liquor.
You can't sell, but you can consume it on property.
We have the Sunday license, we have all that. So we can pour whatever we want.
Okay.
All that. So that was, it was a nightmare of a process to get it, but it was just logistical nightmare, not money.
Yeah.
So
it's like I think that's the mental block for a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, I don't know how to get started. How'd you start? Google?
Yeah. So in St. Louis is just notorious for just poorly run everything. You go to City Hall and no office, everything's on paper, no office talks to the other one. So and I'm sure that's every city everywhere, right? So my motivation was I can't afford to pay somebody to do this for me.
Yeah.
There was a company that does your liquor license and everyone goes through it because it's such a
laborious,
it doesn't even make sense how they do it. So it's basically this company does it and you get it. They weren't taking any more clients because pandemic kind of screwed them up. So people were just starting to try to open restaurants because there was cheap real estate out there, whatever it was. So I was like, I have to go do this myself. Yeah. So we went in there, then we went door to door to start filling stuff out. And we just asked a million questions to the people at City Hall. Typically, you get the runaround or you do something, you fill it out, and they're like, oh, that's not how you do it. And I'm like, that's not what you told me last time, but you just had to. It was kind of like a survival mode.
Yeah.
Liquor without a liquor license, that's like...
Hey, how are you going to run a wedding business without booze?
So luckily I have a good friend there that opened her own venue. So I kind of just hey, help me out. How do we do this? If we have to, we'll bring in a caterer to run the bar, but it's really...
And you already had the commercial kitchen side dialed in, and you already kind of had. I'm assuming you already knew kind of a menu, and you could kind of price that out.
I was able to write the menu. I had insights into pricing. I was able to somewhat future-proof our pricing. I knew what not to put on a menu.
See, that's the thing. I own a restaurant, and the biggest challenge is a great vibe, great community, but the biggest challenge is it's like the margins are beyond skinny, and it makes it almost it's miserable to run and to make it profitable, because the cost of goods is always changing. Labor, at least for us as a restaurant, you're open all day. There's these peak times of day where it's very if it's slow and you got too much staff on, but then you don't have enough staff on and you get a huge rush. So you're constantly kind of ebb and flowing of your labor,
right? Versus
for events, I got 200 people showing up. I gotta have a 1 to 10
it's my fault if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Because I know how many people are coming. I know how much food to have. We only do, for the most part, do plated meals. So I can order to the spear of asparagus what I need, right?
Oh, that's nice.
We do some buffets.
So your waste is pretty minimal.
Minimal. It's all kind of built into that cost. I don't even know that I want to tell you my food costs because you'll cry. But
I mean, so you're $100 a plate. Like restaurant world, if we can stay to 30%, 35% cost of goods for a venue, are you less than that?
Oh my God.
20?
I'm under 10%. For food, right?
But then you have an open bar.
Yeah. Which you don't get killed on. I mean, I was nervous.
There's big margins and like for us to have beer wine, like that, there is the margin. Yeah. There is where it makes sense.
Right. I would track every drink I still track all those costs, but I tracked it to the T for so long and I was like, we're not going over this percent. So
what's your controllables on your OpEx, like your operational expenses?
So, I mean, besides food and beverage, which is typically a big one, labor, it grew a lot this year just because we're hiring that management team, right?
Okay.
So
you're moving to the next level.
Right. So the first 6 months of this year, I saw just our sales this year were just like through the roof. I was like, oh my God, we're hiring.
Yeah.
And then after a few months, I'm like, okay, we're definitely not making the money we thought we were. So trimmed back a few people, and rightfully so.
Like full-time salary people?
Yeah. So we did hire on thinking, okay, our offsite sales are going to explode. So I'm going to focus on that. So I'm going to bring an extra person in.
I remember our first hire for Ohana was probably, 8 years ago. My first hire was the most scary moment of my life. You're like, oh crap, I'm responsible for this person's like life and paycheck, and I got to make sure I can have enough money coming in.
Yeah.
It's and release control. Like, this is my baby. This is my vision. I'm going to trust you to do this.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
So it's rough. So the first chef I hired pretty quick. So I was still working my full-time job while we opened, and I did a couple events, and it was a nightmare. So we hired our first chef, really liked him. He was affordable, did good, had personal issues that we just couldn't help with.
Yeah.
Even tried it first and learned we shouldn't really try to. So
that's actually a very mature business person. Like I always was trying to be a counselor. Like I'm a counselor by training.
Yeah.
So always trying to help my employees. I'm like, at the end of the day, like you're paid to do a job. I care for you as a person, but I cannot fix your personal stuff. And you got to come in to work ready to work.
Yep.
And it's
So
you feel heartless or an asshole, but it's not.
Yeah, we learned that lesson. So when we decided to let the initial chef go and hire a new one, we darn near doubled the salary for the new guy. But when you're putting on a wedding for 300, that's the crunch time is just unfathomable. So having someone solid in there, it was worth it.
Because you're like, if your kitchen is probably, you have the 2 hours before, it's just chaos.
It's chaos. For the few hours we have a dozen people in there just working as hard as they can, and then we plate up. It's just 20 minutes of like go, 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 and then we serve. Then you take your breath. But having that chef in there that we had to spend a lot of money on.
Yeah. Was it worth it?
Oh, it's worth it.
So
I still look at that number and I'm like, damn, that's a lot. But I feel great.
I know. Like, and I think that's a level of, actually, dude, I'm give you props because it's like a level of maturity is I was so cheap in hiring for people, and I would like, I hired on potential versus ability.
Sure. Yeah,
and now I'm point. I need like the thoroughbreds. I need the people that can make it happen, and they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Like these people on my payroll that are like my aces and my top dogs, like I'm paying a lot of money for them, but it's well worth it.
Sure.
Because you can be able to breathe and you know that your business, your culture, your mission is being taken care of. So sometimes investing in the right people and paying that premium is well worth it.
And finding any culinary help is difficult.
Sure.
But then finding a chef who's like a family guy, level-headed was just a bonus too. So we're just like so comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And that will probably always be the largest, payroll expense until we grow into like some sort of general manager or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
so do you have other kind of venues that you look at and you're like, all right, this is my path? Because now you're what we talked about like before we started, like you're booked out every weekend.
Yeah. So weddings, we're set on weddings, which is going to pay the bills. It's the bread and butter.
So that's like 1 to 2 weekend days 2 weekend days a week.
Yeah.
So then you got 5 other days during the week.
Right.
So, obviously there's prep and things like, what do you do with the time? How do you maximize your revenue or help create that lift
right
to take you to that next level.
And it's a little difficult because weddings are, and I'm not saying we overcharge people.
Sure.
It's profitable for that day.
Yeah.
But I have this big staff and I'm like, all right, to really afford them, we got to be busy the rest of the week. So, you know, for example, we did a lunch for 12 the other day. And my staff was like, oh, it's only, you know, a $500 lunch. And I'm like, yeah, but it's money we
Money in the bank.
didn't have that helps pay to keep you guys busy. Like
I'm already paying, like you're already paying them,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So, you know, this is how we're going to grow organically. This is how I'm going to continue to.
So corporate events kind of is your thing?
Corporate events, we invested in AV for the venue because it is a theater, right? It was originally a theater.
Dude, that sounds sweet.
So we bought this huge screen projector, a nice AV system. And I think we can get a lot of that business that hotels traditionally got.
Sure.
People are looking for a little more of an independent feel, or you know, we're in a really historic neighborhood in St. Louis. So there's a lot of character there.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the Hilton.
Right.
You want to go to
So I think we can get that business. We can be a value too. We'll charge less than a hotel because they charge crazy amounts of money, you know.
They get that plus.
And we'll be a better experience.
Yeah.
So
we actually, with our restaurant, so it's a great vibe. It has a really good, like, everyone who comes in is like, oh, this place is beautiful. And we're more of a brunch spot. So we're like, okay, how do we create some revenue and some value later in the day? We have the bar, but it's not really maximized.
Right.
So we launched rentals, like corporate.
Great.
And they inquire online. We give them but it's a lot of corporate events, and they can get a number of tickets for drinks and food, and that's been a huge opportunity for us and we're a value, and for us, it's like you were saying, like my staff know exactly who's coming in, how many people, and can make it happen. And I'm like, man, the events is where it's at. Honestly,
I agree. Yeah, showers in restaurants. I feel bad for them. It's getting more expensive.
Yeah, I would not open another restaurant.
Right.
It's
so
tough.
Even when we recommend places for rehearsal dinner, they'll come back and be like, wow, it's really expensive there. I'm like, yeah, it's because, you know, the restaurant has to focus on their dinner service. So if they pull their staff away, they might get a worse experience to their regular customers. Like, it's difficult. So yeah, if you can capitalize on events, rentals, PM business, like there's opportunity, I think.
So kind of looking at, like, for you guys, as you're an event space, one of the obviously biggest thing is like getting quality leads in, quality couples that want to get married there. You're brand new. Like, what's your marketing strategy, and how do you guys like get the people in the door?
Right. So luckily, Christina had such great experience doing that, and she learned a lot of hard lessons that we didn't have to learn. Right, like working with the wrong client. Yeah. Because again, that's your fault. If you said, yes, I'm going to book this client, even though they're demanding and unhappy, and I know they're going to leave me a bad review and be mean to my staff, like that's my fault. I shouldn't have booked them. So she came in with that mentality. Of course, I was like, we're going to say yes to everything.
Oh, yeah. Are you the nice guy? Or are you?
Well, coming into it, I probably was, right? Because I didn't have the...
Or you were the dollar. You were like, we need to get the money in the bank.
Right.
I'm going to quit my job.
But she had the customer experience, and I had more of the like money or culinary experience. So she had to teach me a lot about like, hey, yeah, it's great. We might book this event, but it's going to be a nightmare. And our staff will hate their jobs if we have to deal with this sort of thing. Yeah. So I understood that quickly just because I saw her go through it before. But we still said yes to people. Yeah. That we wish we wouldn't have.
What's your average like cost per like lead? How do you even get leads in? Is it all word of mouth now, or is there like?
I wish it was all word of mouth because we have stellar reviews. We get word of mouth business now that we're kind of back open and people know we're there. But really, in the wedding industry, there's a website called The Knot or Wedding Wire. We all pay a lot of money for it. There's not a lot of positive experiences because they own that space. They own it.
So you put your beautiful photos on there.
We pay a bunch of money. We put our photos on there, videos, write our little spiel, put a picture of us maybe, and we get leads through that. But that's how we get our leads.
So what I do know, and probably one of your secret sauce, is that you're locally owned.
Right.
You're a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Married. You're still, you're 40. We're 40, but it's like we're still young-ish. Yeah. Especially for like.
We're young at heart. Almost 40.
So they look at you guys, they're like, oh, I can relate, right? Is that your play? Is that your angle?
That's our story, right? Yeah. So
use the story you got.
Yeah, that was our strength. I kind of knew that, but when a couple would come in and we'd really win them over, and then win the parents over, I'm like, oh, we're in that sweet spot. Like, we got to capitalize.
Yeah, do it now before you're 60 and we're like, oh, who's this guy?
Yeah. So when Christina and I toured together, which we have a sales manager that does much of our touring, but we'll still tour occasionally just if it's too busy. And we have our spiel we go back to. It's fun because it's true, but we, crack the same corny jokes about being married or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's genuine though. Cause we tell them like, hey, we're here for you. Like if you need us, like you send us an email, you call us, like we're going to make sure your event's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, cause this is our baby. Right? Like we live 5 minutes away and like literally this is our baby.
That's good. So now you guys work together, husband and wife. Like Sarah and I have been working together probably for a decade, more than that, maybe 15 years now. And I honestly don't remember not working together, like having it's a family business. And now obviously we have kids and there's like, we have different roles and responsibilities, but like we're day in, day out. So now you guys, like this is your baby together. How is that? Like, do you guys have like, I don't even want to say work-life balance, but how do you guys separate out like, hey, we're husband and wife, then we're business partners?
Yeah. We haven't totally figured that out.
Sure.
Luckily, we have a good couple that's kind of been a mentor to us that actually lives in Phoenix and has an amazing venue at the Grove.
Oh yeah,
down in
I've been
Levine,
there.
right?
It's great.
Right.
It's super nice.
So they were the first people we called when this opportunity came up, and they kind of talked us through a lot of it, gave us great pointers. But one of the first things they said was like, pick a lane for each of you, and that's where you stay. Yeah, you're going to collaborate, but like obviously I'm back of the house, right? I'm culinary operations, some of the money management, but Christina's going to be front of the house, customer facing. Like those decisions are Christina's. We collaborate a lot, but we've been so busy that only now are we stepping away to really collaborate more on like building the business, which direction we want to go. So now we're having those conversations. We're generally in line, luckily, but it's
because it's your vision. It's almost like when Sarah and I started Ohana, it was back in, we started talking about it in 2015, and the vision and mission of it was just birthed out of both of us, that we have always been, even strategic planning, like pretty aligned of like what we wanted. And I'm sure that's kind of similar for you. Oh yeah. It's not like it's your baby and her baby and then you're joining in, but it's like you guys birthed it out together.
We did. Yeah.
And it's super scary. Like, because you quit your job, she quit hers.
I thought I'd stay at my job for years, right?
Yeah.
Like this like government position with a pension and
would
benefits.
you ever go back?
Oh, well, I love the company. So actually I would, but it would be hard to be like, okay, I'm going back to this desk for 8 or 9 hours or traveling if they tell me to travel,
So being like your own business owner, like the flexibility.
Yeah. And that's the motivation for us to be like, all right, we have this catering and events business. Let's grow it. And then let's start looking, what are some ancillary businesses that, because what if Gen Z hates weddings in the future?
No
one
wants to get married. We're waiting until we're 45.
Right.
And then we're maybe just going to keep dating. We're not going to have kids. Like, what the heck do you do?
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping the corporate world with, it's going a little more work from home. So maybe they want to come together and have fun, which is our initial success for companies that were like, hey, our employees haven't been together in a few months. We're going to throw a rager. So they're willing to spend money on that.
And we are available.
Right. Yeah. Come on
exactly.
down. Bring 300 of them. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So you're trying to find, you're diversifying your income.
Yeah. We see a lot of potential to grow what we have, but then it's going to be like, okay, we need to start stepping outside the events world.
Sure.
Unless we really get into offsite catering large. We did 5 weddings this year offsite. Okay. Which is awesome.
So because, that's actually an interesting concept, because you already have built out the kitchen. You already have
could be the biggest expense of your life.
For sure, right?
Right? It's incredible what it could cost.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
So you have all of the thing, and then you have this huge kitchen. So now how do you then try to get, our wives are coming in. They're probably half drunk. I don't even know what they are. I've been drinking wine all day.
They're either going to be asleep or like in the pool when we get out.
I know. God. It's December, and it's December in Phoenix, which we're very chilly. We are in jackets around here. But yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. But you already have this offsite catering. So how do you maximize that, create like these ghost kitchen concepts, Uber Eats and all of that?
And that was my first idea. I was like,
create like a little Uber Eats.
We have to make money.
Ghost kitchen.
Yeah, I'll sell pizza or wings out of it. But no, like the bread and butter is still going to be large scale events. Offsite catering is such a different beast. It's so logistical. I say that like catering is a mixture of carrying stuff and cooking. Like it's just work.
Yeah.
Like it's hard.
It is hard.
You just move stuff around and you're trying to figure out how to keep food hot at places, but it's lucrative because not that many people do it well.
Yeah, I mean, our restaurant we have a small kitchen, and we have been asked to do catering almost monthly, and our kitchen cannot handle it. And it's good money, and they're like, no, I don't care how much it's going to cost. I'm like, we can't keep that much food hot. We can't get 200 plates out in that amount of time. Right. It's like, I want to. And like these ghost kitchens, these kind of corporate events, that's maybe the kind of the angle that you need to play. And like, if you think about for the future, and people are like so in their phones and like having these moments of kind of coming together and experiences is what people want.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. And I have friends that have restaurants in St. Louis that do that stuff, but they can't. They have to focus. It's so labor intensive. They have to focus on their own thing.
Sure.
So
our wives are telling us that we have to wrap up. 2 questions for you that I always ask. Like one is like, obviously this podcast and this vision that I have for it is like helping people unleash their purpose for their life, like helping them thrive, become their best versions of themselves. What do they dream for their life? Like what is that for you?
So I think initially when we decided to get into business, it was like, what lifestyle do we want? Okay. And it was kind of all encompassing. It wasn't just about money. It was more about like, well, I want to be able to walk my dog in the middle of the day if I want to, but I also want to go to work and like love it and like kind of thrive. So I'm surprised at how much I love actually being at weddings and events. Yeah. Like Christina has to pull me away sometimes to be like, hey, we're not closing tonight. I'm like, oh, I want to stay and like see this band play. Like they're fun, like party, you know? So I think the satisfaction of work and then, but selfishly, it's like, I do need to make that money and I want to make some more and like kind of build that lifestyle I want. We have kind of committed to being a little bit purposeful with our business. Out of our building, actually, a church serves meals to the homeless a few weeks out of the month. So we've gotten involved with that. And it was really powerful the first time that we cooked and served the meals. Because the priest that runs it, he's like, I want a dignified meal for these people.
Oh, that's cool.
It's their only respite. They're on the street. Like, they're going to sit down. I'm going to serve them a meal. They don't go through like a soup kitchen line. Yeah. So we did that and we were like moved big time.
What dignity. Yeah.
Right. Dignity was a big part of it. I didn't like, that's hospitality to us. So we love hospitality. So if you can do that for the lowest to the highest, like it's pretty awesome. That's a win. So we're pretty satisfied that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. So is it like, I think as I have gotten older, getting more and more secure of like what I'm called to and what is purposeful in my life, like helps answer a lot of that.
Right.
And then my last question that I always ask, it says, hey, if you're going to die tomorrow, what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh boy. I've always been seen as a pretty like happy, level-headed guy, which I like, but I hope it's a little more impactful at this point. Like, wow, he went out there and built this business. Like, look what he did. Like, look what they started from the ground up. Like, I'm really proud of that. Like, I didn't think business would be like what defines me.
Yeah.
But like, the more we hear from people like, wow, look what you've done. I'm like, yes, that makes me feel amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's such purpose and significance of like the value of creating something. Yeah. And then you're adding value to people's lives. You're creating these memories for them.
Yeah. 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 We've done some like first birthday parties for kids that were born from couples that came. You know, it's really cool to be a part of that.
Your kid will never remember it, but they'll have a photo.
Yeah. 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 And doing it with Christina is amazing. Like, we also get a lot of compliments that we're able to do it together.
Yeah. Doing this work in the business together.
Yeah.
Danny,
we're proud of that.
Dude, you're a rock star.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Until next week, may you unleash your purpose so you can profit in your business, faith, and life.
Thanks for joining us for the Unleash Your Purpose podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.